I get a lot of messages from people who are on the fence about buying a walk-behind floor scrubber. They're usually juggling a tight budget, a schedule that leaves little room for trial and error, and the fear that the machine they pick will either be too underpowered for a busy shop or too bulky for the space they have. That's exactly why I wanted to sit down and break this down, not with a hype-filled pitch, but with the kind of practical detail that helps you decide if this is the right tool for your daily grind. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the SUNMAX 22-inch walk-behind commercial floor scrubber is marketed as a one-pass water recovery unit, which means it's supposed to pick up the dirty water it sprays, leaving the floor drier than a mop would. The promise sounds great on paper, but the real question is how that plays out when you're actually scrubbing a 200 square foot warehouse, a small restaurant kitchen, or even a retail backroom. I spent a couple of afternoons moving the unit around a 500 square foot service area that has a mix of sealed concrete and vinyl tiles, and I'll walk you through what I saw. The first thing you notice is the cordless design. There's a built-in battery pack that lets you push the scrubber around without tripping over a cord. In a real-world scenario, that translates to a lot less downtime. I could finish a full pass across the room, stop, and the battery indicator still showed about 70% left. That's enough for a typical 30-minute cleaning window, which is exactly what many small businesses need. If you run a space where you have to clean multiple rooms back-to-back, you'll want to factor in the charging time, about an hour for a full charge, so you might need a second battery if you can't afford a break. The 22-inch scrubbing path is a sweet spot for the size of the unit. It's wide enough to make progress without feeling like you're pushing a bulldozer, yet narrow enough to navigate around aisles, equipment, and tight corners. In the service area I tested, I could get right up to a storage rack without having to lift the machine, and the squeegee flexed enough to stay in contact with the floor even on a slight slope. That flexibility matters because you don't want to leave streaks or missed spots just because the machine can't hug the surface. Now, let's talk about the water recovery claim. The scrubber has a separate recovery tank that pulls the dirty water back in as the squeegee moves forward. In my trial, the tank filled at a rate that matched my expectations for a space of that size. After 2 passes, the tank was about half full, which meant I could finish the job without having to stop and empty it. The water was noticeably clearer than the spray water, confirming that the recovery system is actually pulling a good amount of the solution back. For someone who needs a dry floor, quickly think a restaurant that can't afford a wet slip hazard. That's a real advantage. One hidden trade-off is the size of the solution tank versus the recovery tank. The unit comes with a single tank that you fill with cleaning solution and a separate smaller tank for the dirty water. If you're cleaning a larger area or a floor that gets heavily soiled, you'll find yourself needing to stop more often to refill the clean solution. In my test, the clean solution tank held enough for roughly 300 square feet before it needed topping up. That's fine for a small shop, but could become a nuisance in a larger warehouse unless you have a second tank on hand. Another practical point is the weight. At around 75 pounds, the scrubber is portable enough to be moved by a single person, but you'll still want to use the built-in wheels rather than trying to lift it onto a cart. The wheels roll smoothly on smooth concrete, but they can catch on rough patches or uneven grout lines. If your facility has a lot of textured flooring, you might experience a little vibration that translates into a slightly noisier operation. It's not a deal breaker, but it's something to keep in mind if you're sensitive to noise levels in a quiet office environment. Who should consider this unit? If you run a small to medium-sized commercial space, think a boutique gym, a CAF, a small office building, or a retail stockroom, and you need a reliable way to keep hard floors clean without hiring a dedicated crew, the SUNMAX 22-inch walk-behind hits the sweet spot. Its cordless freedom, one-pass water recovery, and manageable size make it a practical choice for daily cleaning schedules where you want to get the job done fast and keep the floor dry enough for foot traffic right after. Who might want to skip it? Large facilities with expansive floor areas, say a 10,000 square foot manufacturing plant, will likely find the 22-inch path and the solution tank capacity limiting. In that scenario, a larger diameter scrubber or a Ridion model would cut down on the number of